Welcome to My Favorite CX, a podcast that celebrates exceptional customer experiences. To listen to today's, please choose from one of the following options.
Welcome to My Favorite Customer Experience. I'm Chris Holt from Holt CX Consultancy here in the UK, and I'm joined by Charlie Adams, Director of Customer Success and Experience at Custom Connect. Charlie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Cheers, Chris. Morning.
And Charlie, I was having a look at your profile before chatting to you today, and multifaceted comes to mind. So you're combining that day job with being a top voice within the field of customer experience, acting as a judge and an esteemed judge even for various CX awards. Your book, It's Just People, is just behind you on the video feed just there. Speaker at industry events, and we properly met as part of CX Runners on LinkedIn, which brings us around to you're currently training for the 2026 London Marathon.
I am. Yeah, I am. Well, you say training. I mean, I've just finished week one of the 16-week plan. So anyone that's done anything like this will know that, generally speaking, the shortest you can do as a training plan is like 16 weeks. And I broke my toe a couple of months ago. So I put off all training across Christmas and build my strength back up. But yeah, I've just started week one. I'm still okay. I don't have any tape on my legs yet. I'm still running. So that's the main thing. But yeah, 15 weeks yesterday, I'll be doing it.
Wonderful. And I'm retired from marathon running now. I stick to halves just because the extra training, I just find that step from half to full just takes over your life.
It's madness. And people don't realize, because I didn't realize when I first did a half and thought, I could probably try and do that twice. But it gets unbelievably difficult. Even after 20 miles, you think, you should be able to do it after 20 miles. But that last bit is so hard. It's but that's kind of why I do it. I do it because I need the challenge. But also, I might as well mention, I'm doing it for Julia's House. So Julia's House is a children's hospice down here in Dorset. I did my first marathon running for Julia's House back in like 2017, I think it was. And I've done a half marathon over in Cyprus for them. And I'm just well chuffed that they've let me join the team for this year, for the London Marathon. So yeah, raising money for Julia's House. So please look on my LinkedIn for all the links to click on and sponsor me and check out Julia's House.
We'll put a QR code up at that point.
That'd be cool.
And we'll put that in the show notes as well. So if you do want to learn more about Charlie's exploits over the next 16 weeks, we'll be publishing this in February, so probably about 12 weeks by then. So you might have a bit of tape on your leg by then.
Yeah, I'd have done a few more miles by then, yeah.
The one thing I don't miss from marathon training is that always feeling hungry or tired or both, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. But then on the plus side, you can eat as much pasta as you want and get away with it for every meal. So fine.
We've diverted off course quite substantially from where I normally talk to people about, but we went through a little bit of your history and your experience at the start of the show. Why don't you tell us a bit more about what you do at Custom Connect at the moment and what you brought you to that point?
Cool. So let's start off with what brought me to this point, I guess, because you're right. I've got quite an eclectic career, to say the least. I actually trained in interior design many moons ago when I went to university. So yeah, I've got a degree in interior design, which you can't tell from behind, but I have decorated the rest of the house really nicely. And after being made redundant several times, I called my mate Trev up and said, Trev, I need a job. And he put me in a contact center. This was when I was 29, back in 2009. And I'd never been in a contact center before. I'd never worked in customer service before, or even dreamt of doing it. You know, my skills were doing CAD drawing and construction drawing. And it turned out I was quite good at it. And then after a few jobs, I kind of enjoyed the leadership side of it. And then I kept taking various other leadership steps through companies like Xerox and Ordnance Survey and Castles Technology, working with finance. And then really fortunately that the team I'm working with now, especially the guys in the UK, I've known them from working hopping through a career about 10, maybe 12 years ago. And I'm really fortunate to be working with them again. So at Custom Connect, where I work now. It's a global BPO. If you haven't heard of us, we're kind of the best kept secret in the BPO world. And my role there is to try and do the impossible, to try and connect customer experience and CX across global contact centers that speak different languages, that use different systems, that have different cultures, that speak to different customers in different ways, from chat and back office admin and calls. So it's kind of impossible. But the way I've tried to do that is, over the last year, as you'll know from seeing my LinkedIn, is creating this system called Maya. It started back in April. At least for me, it started back in April 2025, because that is when I joined Custom Connect, and very quickly started to realize that part of my mission there was to help gel the teams across the global contact centers. And part of what was missing, or part of what was needed, was a way to understand how we could measure and support our people in each contact center in a way that was concise and consistent. So there weren't people, say, we didn't have agents over in South America that weren't getting support, but agents over in Netherlands were getting support. It just wasn't the right way to do it. So we started to research what tools and systems we could use to help gel our people together. And nothing fit the bill. There's some systems were too expensive. Some systems just didn't integrate, as we know is hard, especially with the myriad of systems out there. And some just didn't tick all the boxes that we wanted to tick. I mean, yes, they produced data, they produced insights, but they didn't do the supportive side. And that's the big thing that I wanted to bring. Obviously, as a people person, I wanted to bring the supportive side.
Of course.
So crazily, we decided to build something ourselves. And at the start, it seemed like a good idea, because it was just going to be small and dirty, and we're just going to experiment and see what worked for us. And we're going to obviously do the obvious thing to launch it internally, one team at a time, and see what benefit it brought. And it kind of got out of hand, because it worked really well, really quickly. So we expanded it really quickly. We started using it live with live clients across the world, which then gave us real data and real insights about how it was really operating. So we knew if it was good or rubbish. And it was good. So we took it a step further. And then proudly in October, was it October? Yeah, October last year, we actually went to market for externally. So we realized that we had such a good thing internally that other people might benefit from this as well. So a small bit of investment, not huge, but a small bit of investment to make sure we packaged it for market, and it's now out there.
And I think that it's really interesting in the CX space at the moment that you are seeing new players, in that you've got your CCaaS stacks, and they've been doing quality management and performance management and various different things for years, but it's always been modularized, or, to your point, expensive. And if you're a BPO, I'm guessing you're using all kinds of different technology depending on where you are in the world, and whether your customer's telling you to provide the technology, or whether you're being, utilizing customer technology. So trying to get a one size fits all is going to be a challenge. And I think that's where we're seeing quite a few nascent providers come in and go, well, what if we do build something ourselves?
Yeah, there are a few out there. And you hear the horror stories that, there's some big players that have invested millions, and then it's crashed and not worked out. And not all systems are equal. For instance, I often describe Maya as being a conversation analytics tool, but then get reminded over and over again, it's not just that, because you can't put it in the same box as every other conversation analytics tool. So it is, yeah, it's a huge market. There's, well, I'd say hundreds, probably thousands. If you wanted to list all the systems that we had to choose from, there's thousands of systems out there. There's obviously the big players that everyone's aware of, but there's thousands.
And a lot of that, as a consultant, is trying to work out which ones will still be here in a year or two's time. To your point, you don't want to pick one that crashes and burns and was a poor investment choice and doesn't deliver for a customer.
Yeah, no, you spot part of the challenge. Actually, have you heard of the EU AI Act? That's
Yeah, I can't say I've read it page to page just yet, but yeah.
Well, we haven't read it page to page, but we've had to understand it because you're right. We when we created the system in turn, before we even decided to market it externally, we wanted to make sure whatever we created would be future proof to that point. And so we researched, what if we're going to start using AI because the system's full of AI at the core, what rules we need to follow, what regulations there are. And we discovered there's the EU AI Act, which is, well, it's kind of out partly now, but it's probably coming out this year. The date keeps moving, but it's coming out probably this year. Is really going to define how we can use AI in contact centers. And there's so many systems out there that don't adhere to it. So for instance, okay, so let's take sentiment analysis.
Yep.
Most QA tools claim to do sentiment analysis. But if you truly do sentiment analysis, that's going to be banned, especially in real time, within the EU AI Act, because you can't use AI to determine someone's feelings or sentiment. You're just not allowed to within the Act. So therefore, there's so many systems out there that claim to be future-proof, that claim to follow regulations that will either be unusable, or they'll have to tick that off as they can't use that function anymore within the system.
I've just thought of half a dozen ways and half a dozen different customers at least who are doing something along those lines. You're like, okay, that's a key selling point for a number of live agent assist platforms to know that sentiment, and that's going to be straight away untick. And I guess you then got the interest of, especially in the UK, of, well, do you decide to comply with an EU Act or not as well?
Well, yeah, and we have this discussion because where we're testing Maya is actually not in the EU. With some EU clients, but we're testing it in SA or across in South America. But even if you're in the UK, if you're speaking to any customers that reside or do business through the EU, then it still counts. But also what will probably happen, which happens with most regulations like this, is once the precedent is set in the EU, that'll no doubt start to expand, and other countries and other areas will take on similar regulations of how to use it. So it's so watch this space. It'll be a bit of a shake-up, and as much as we've tried to follow all the lines and everything in there, any changes as they go live will no doubt trip us up as well. But we'll keep an eye on it.
I think it's a really interesting point as well. We've seen with GDPR, for example, once an EU standard is set, you then see the major vendors at least going, well, we need to comply with that, so we'll make it a global standard.
Exactly. And that was our worry, which is why we're kind of confident. I say confident now. Let's wait to see when it comes out what's actually in the small print, but I'm confident now.
So, see, there's a lot of moving parts in this space at the moment. Where do you think the biggest opportunity is to create exceptional customer experience as we look into our crystal ball of 2026?
Mm-hmm. It's okay. Contrary to everything I've just said about technology, I think the opportunity is we're just doing the basics right. And it's because when you first invited me on this and you're like, okay, we're going to talk about a great customer experience you've had, it actually took me ages to think of a great customer experience. And then it made me think, why is that? And I think a lot of the time when you're in the CX world like we are, you kind of get fogged by seeing all the stats and all the great NPS scores going up and all the information about how good customer experience is. But the reality of everyday life is you don't get that experience as a customer all the time. You don't leave every single experience thinking, wow, that was amazing. Even though they might have just won an award yesterday, you just don't see that physically. So I think the reason why that's happening is because people are focusing on the big wow moment. Everyone's focusing on, let's win this award, let's make this big change, let's implement AI and tell everyone we've got AI. Let's implement this huge process and structural change internally. And it's great and it's needed. Otherwise, business will stay stagnant. You kind of need to keep up with the market. I completely get that. Because if you don't do these things, then in 2 years' time, you'd be left behind. But I think the big winners, especially if you want to win this year, is just get the basics right. Just focus on getting the very small basics right. Don't implement anything new. Just obsess over it. Obsess over every single detail, especially that middle bit of customer service. Everyone thinks, we got to make sure that how we first connect with them is perfect, which is great. And we've got to make sure that our complaints and resolution is great. That's amazing. But just that middle bit that is a gray area where nothing really goes right or wrong. Obsess over that. And well, for me as a customer, I think that's the bit that I'll notice if you just get that right.
I think it's unsexy, but it's a really salient point of like, actually, we can't sprinkle magic everywhere, but we can go and fix the basics. And when I work with customers, I'll go and look at some of the analytics, and it'll be things that people aren't looking at. I'll be looking at hold count or hold time or using sentiment analysis while it's still available, and going, well, it's great that you've got this initiative and you've just launched this or you've just done that, but I can show you 10, 20, 30 agents that look like they're struggling.
Mhm.
So let's go and put the focus into that, because if you're looking at the underlying numbers, these are contributing. You know, if you think about the cadence of a call, if you're being put on hold 10 times in 30 minutes, that's a really difficult call for a customer. You know, you just get into listening to an enjoyable tune and then you're back to an agent. You're like, no, put me back on that. You know, it's all of those little things that might seem minuscule, but they are the death by a thousand cuts that are killing your customer experience.
Yeah, is that, people say don't sweat the small stuff, but that's great sometimes when you've got to be strategic and think about the bigger picture, but you got to sweat the small stuff. That's the stuff that matters, that makes the difference.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, fundamentals in contact center. You have to sweat the small stuff. So we're going to take a break there, Charlie, and we'll bring you back and we'll see if you did manage to delve into your mind and find a positive customer experience.
There's
So,
one. I
folks,
found one.
awesome. So, folks, we'll just take a short break and then we'll be back with my favorite customer experience.
Your call is important to us. Please hold and you'll be connected to your next favorite customer experience shortly.
Welcome back to my favorite customer experience. I'm joined this week by Charlie Adams from Custom Connect. And before the break, you were talking about the fun of trying to think of a positive and an exceptional customer experience. I believe you managed. So why don't you share that with us?
Cool. So yes, gladly, actually, because I am a judge at awards, I actually do like shouting about and praising exceptional customer experience. It's kind of my thing. That's the fun bit about what we do. So I'm actually going to praise Specsavers to give them a shout out. So the reason I'm praising them is I went there 2 months ago to get an eye test, as people do. And from when I walked in to the way that everyone just smiled and looked at me, and literally everybody, but not just reception, everyone smiled and looked at me. The reception greeted me. Within seconds, they knew why I was there and as soon as I gave my name, they're like, oh, we've been expecting you. Go and take a seat over there. Again, within seconds, someone came out and said, oh, are you Charlie Adams? Can I lead you through? And they were chatty. They were talking about life and the world. And it wasn't just the fact they were smiling and knew what they were doing. It's the fact that everything was joined up. So I went to reception. They knew exactly what they were doing. I went to get an eye test. They knew what they were doing. In fact, you do the pre-eye test before the eye test. The little thing where they squirt the air in your eyes. And every step along the way. And then when I went out to pick some glasses, a guy called Demetrius, I remember his name because he was so good, helped me pick glasses. And I hate picking glasses. Incidentally, these are my old ones. I'm still waiting for my new ones. And I hate doing it because it's that, I don't know because as a glasses user, don't you hate just having to stand there in front of everyone? Because obviously you're in a shop environment, having to take different glasses on, put them on, look in the mirror, realize you look like a complete wally. Same thing again. It's just, it's not my thing. But he made it easier. He straight away said, right, what size glasses do you want? What shape glasses? What you want? Metal? Do you want plastic, etc.? And led me through all the right ones. He then called over a colleague of his, so I wanted some sunglasses too, who was an expert in sunglasses to help. Everything just felt joined up. That isn't what's exceptional. That's just standard service.
That's standard. Yep.
What's amazing is when I went back to get my glasses, I got exactly the same service. This is 3 weeks later. The way that they greeted me, the way that they all smiled at me, the way that every single point knew what they were doing and was really coordinated. And, I left feeling like I was almost one of the team. And that isn't even what's exceptional. What's exceptional is, and this is where it gets a bit weird to say it's good customer service, because my prescription was wrong. So as much as I kept trying my glasses, there was something not quite right. Everything
Yep.
was a bit blurry. So I had to call up. I went back in for another eye test. Again, the way they greeted me, the way that everyone knew what they were doing was exceptional for every step of the way. Then I had to go back and collect my glasses. Again, I had the same service where everyone knew what they were doing. And the annoying thing is my prescription's still wrong. So I'm actually going back again today's Monday. I'm going back again this afternoon to have another eye test so they can figure out what's actually gone wrong. I'm kind of looking forward to it because I know I'll get the same experience. So the reason why I think it's great customer experience is because it's consistent. Because it wasn't just a one-off. I went in, I happened to speak to a great colleague. Because you do get, sometimes you speak to someone amazing and they give great customer experience. You go the next day, you speak to someone else and they give bad customer experience. It's just the nature of
It's the luck of the draw.
especially face to face, luck of the draw. But they'd obviously been, every single person's obviously well trained. And it's not just down to the people, the processes and the procedures in place between handovers and what everyone has to do has obviously been well worked out. Someone at a strategic journey level has obviously worked this all out exactly how it has to work and then trained it down. So from my experience, every time I've gone in, I've got the same experience. And it almost feels like that's their Specsavers brand now to me. That's the experience I'm going to get, which is, it's exceptional.
And when you think about it there, your point of it's gone wrong, but it's still been excellent. It's when things go wrong that those systems are tested even further. Because you're right, you could have just had a really good day. It could have been someone brought the cakes in on Saturday morning when you first went in, everyone was having a great day, and that was it. But the fact it's been repeatable, the fact that it's been consistent despite there being issues, and I've been in that position. So one eye is short, one eye is long for me. And thankfully it's quite a minimal prescription for me, but like 15, 20 years ago, I bought some glasses and they'd fitted them the wrong way around. And for a few days, I was like, this is a bit weird. It's a bit cloudy, not cloudy enough to stop me driving or anything like that. But I was like, something's not right. And one day I just flipped my glasses over. I was like, oh, they've just got the eyes the wrong way around. And that was an easy fix. But it's those little things of when things go wrong, that's when the customer experience matters more, because you could have had that exceptional experience. And if the moment something went wrong, they just went, oh, well, it's not us.
Exactly.
Then you're not going to go back to Specsavers. You're going to go elsewhere. Or you're going to, next time there's an eye test, you'll be like, oh, do I trust them? Whereas here, they've held your hand throughout and they've taken ownership of an issue to the point of hopefully resolving it.
Yeah, I'm confident they will resolve it because of the way they've treated me. So it is, I mean, maybe we can do this again in 3 months' time and I'll let you know if I've got real glasses that work. But I'm looking forward to it because, they've had these for a couple of years. I could do with some new ones.
Even going back to that point of trying on different glasses, like as a glasses wearer, they are a big portion of your face. And I'll often go with a couple of different pairs just to change it up slightly and make my face slightly less boring. And I'll take Georgia along with me and I'll put on a pair of glasses and she's like, you're in your 40s, you do not understand your face, do you? I've got a big, let's face it, I have a big head. There's a lot going on and I'll put on a pair of glasses just like, no, just no. And you'll put them back on the shelf and on the shelf, they look perfect. And then the moment they go on my face, something's gone wrong. I'm like a Picasso at that point. But having someone, even to that point, if you had a specialist for sunglasses, it's not even it's just the same glasses, just with a darker lens. It's like you have another specialist and then that gets maintained.
Yeah, it was helpful. I mean, to be honest, I hate going to shops overall, but glasses shopping, it's not just any clothes shopping I detest because it's just the act of having to go and try and find something that suits me because I think it's because I'm a 40-something male, and I think to that point about the fact that you should be old enough to know your glasses that suit you by now. I think you get past a point where it gets worse. So I think I'm finding it harder to dress myself and choose glasses as I get older, and I think that'll just continue.
So I just buy cricket kits all the time now. It's just like, I'm just cosplaying a Sunday League cricketer from the 90s now. It doesn't really matter. But then can't always wear them to work every day.
No.
Charlie, we talked at the start about you being a judge for customer experience awards and things. Do you find that gives you an even higher bar and a higher expectation as a customer?
I think, on the contrary, I think it gives me a rounded view because, and it's not just the judging, but it's the fact that I've had an eclectic career helps me, because it's not like I've just spent 20 years working in one contact center and that's all I know, and then that's my bar. And I set everyone to say, you have to be this good, and this is all I know about customer experience. I've been really fortunate throughout my career, and fortunate through the judging, that when you judge what it is, yes, obviously you choose excellence and you get good stories come to you, but you get all sorts of stories, from one-man band that fitted bathrooms that won the business awards for the category that I did year before last, to when I did the international awards, and there was huge companies, and you're getting presented by Singaporean airports that talking about their 5 airports and how they do all that. And so I think that gives me a balanced view. Yes, I know what good feels like, but I don't think I know what good feels like more than any human being. Because I think as much I can understand how to get there better, but what it feels like, I think everyone knows. We're all just human beings. We're all customers. It's not like a unique niche that only us hold. Every human being's a customer. We just happen to know a bit more about how to get there.
I think for me, it's having worked within, it's knowing the bits that are failing, or knowing how good something could be. Sometimes that's the frustration. I'm always told I'm a frustrating customer.
You're one of those.
For that reason. Yeah.
No, I have known some frustrating customers. There was 10 years ago I was probably a horrible customer because I expected excellence, but I'm probably a bit more grounded now.
Charlie, that brings us to the end of our chat today. Where can people find out more about what you're doing at the moment?
LinkedIn. Obviously find me on LinkedIn, Charlie Adams. I think on the old link on LinkedIn is Charlie HS Adams. If you go on Amazon, you can find my book, It's Just People. Custom Connect, again, shout out, company where I work. Check us out on our website. Actually relaunching our website in the next 2 weeks, so keep an eye on that. You'll see
that will be live by the time we're live. So we'll be live. Yeah. So it will be a new website.
Excellent. In that case, check out our brand new website. See me on LinkedIn. Click on the link that hopefully will have on some sort of QR code, so you can somehow find out who I am and a bit more about our company.
And we'll pop the link in as well for Charlie's London Marathon. I hope you do not get the hottest marathon on record as I had with London many years ago.
Wow. How was that then? Was that hard?
That became a very pragmatic day of do not go home in an ambulance. So you know how all plans go well until you actually try and use them. I started walk running from 8 miles because my heart rate was too high, and actually it was as good an experience as it could have been for a nearly 25-degree day in April.
Sounds fun though. Every marathon's got to be different though, isn't it? So that's a challenge.
Well, best of luck. Hopefully it's a good 16 weeks for you, not too much tape on the legs and things. And thank you very much for joining my favorite customer experience.
Cheers, Chris.
Thanks for listening and watching, everyone. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you for listening to My Favorite CX. Your listenership is important to us. On your keypad, please press a number between 1 and 5 to rank how much you've enjoyed your experience.